Hello, and welcome to my in-depth beginner witch guide. I've been wanting to make this guide for a long time, because a lot of people have recently come to the Discord ever since the release of 3.0 and the Steam version, and they generally have a lot of questions about the character, but there's no real answers on the Discord itself, at least not any updated ones for 3.0, and that's why I'm making this guide. In this guide, I'm going to go over the contracts, basic casting strategy, and I'm also going to go a little in-depth as to what kind of strategy you want to use against the bosses. I'm not going to go into the builds though, so if you're here for builds, that's not going to be in this video. And I'm also not going to be teaching you how to dodge every last little thing, just what's most important. But let's start with the contract, since that's the easiest part. Now, as you can see here, we have 5 contracts, one for each element. The poison contract is the one that you're going to want to avoid, because the poison contract gives you a boost to your healing spells, which are not very good in actual combat, and I will touch upon that later. But basically, you see how it says that other spells will be slightly weakened? That's actually completely untrue. For example, if I go outside and I attack this dummy with the thunder, it does 53-58. Now, if I swap my contract over to the Thunder contract, $53.58 again. The description on them is actually misleading. The elements aren't actually weaker or stronger, they're just easier to use, or less easy to use depending on your contract. See, for example, I do 1 level up, 1 condensed, and 1 thunder, and it's a level 3. Whereas if I do 1 level up, 1 condense, and 1 wind, it's a level 2. The reason why it becomes harder to use other elements is because you can't store them for as much time as you can if you had the matching, or if you had the poison contract where nothing is detracted. But that's enough of the contract talk. Let's talk about each spell and what utility they have. The first spell in the game, nice and easy one, wind. This spell is really good. It has that nice upward curve, which is good for taking out enemies in a slope. And you will come upon this situation a lot in the game where you have to shoot something upwards, and wind covers that angle perfectly. If you level up your wind, it gains more projectiles. And this spell is also really good for using as a shotgun, because if you're close to something when you hit it, all of the hits come out at once. Level 3 is slightly weaker per projectile than level 2. But you get more projectiles, which ultimately gives it less power. Overall, very good spell. The next one I'm going to cover is Fire, the very next one that you get. Fire is potentially the best normal spell in the game, because it covers a lot of AoE and it travels a long distance. The only weakness with Fire is that it won't hit things that are right in front of you. And it also has this problem where, it's kind of hard to see because I'm off camera, but you just saw it there. The actual hitbox will disappear before the animation on Fire ends, so it's not as close range as it seems, and it's not as long range as it seems, but it still covers a good area. If you level it up, level 2 Fire gains more vertical AoE and more hits. Level 3 also gains more hits and even more vertical AoE, but just like Wind, it trades damage per hit for more damage overall. The next one that I'm going to cover is Normal Ice. Now, I'm not going to mince it with you guys. Normal Ice actually sucks. It kind of has this problem now where it's kind of hard to aim properly, and it doesn't really deal a whole lot of damage. The only really useful thing about this spell specifically is the ability to take out the Will-O-Wisp enemies instantly, because if they come into contact with water or ice, they just instantly die. That's just how they work. Level 2 and level 3 just increase the size of the projectile. And our final spell is Thunder, and this is actually a very interesting one. See, Thunder is kind of like a Marth Tipper. Very high damage, but very precise. Now, level 2 Thunder is a little more forgiving, because you see it has that big area. Now, you only need to hit 2 of those little thunders in order to exceed the damage on a level 1 thunder, and it is a lot easier to aim, so if you're going straight for damage, this is actually a really good one to fall back on. Very high damage output as long as your target isn't this skinny little dummy over here. Now the level 3 is actually one of the better spells in the game in my opinion, because as you can see there, it hit twice on that one, and it actually did way more damage than even a level 1 by itself, and it covers a huge area. And the thing is that if you're using a Thunder contract, this will recover a lot of Dragon points as well. So if you're rocking the Thunder, this is a good way to resupply yourself and the team, especially when there's a really big target or a bunch of targets grouped up together. Next, I'm going to cover the Condensed Bells. Now, Condensed Bells are your main source of DPS on the Witch. And let's start with Wind. Now, level 2 Wind covers both sides of the Witch, and it does really high damage per hit, as you can see there. If you do a level 3 Wind, however, the Tornado will move forward. That can be seen as a trade-off of utility, because on the one hand, the Tornado moves forward, and it's a huge hitbox, and it can hit a bunch of things, especially really high above you. But on the other hand, you kind of miss that cover that you had behind you with the level 2. So you might want to consider that before opting to go for the Wind contract. Because if you go for Wind contract, you're going to lose access to the level 2 completely, since it just jumps you to level 3. But generally speaking, Wind is the lowest DPS option that you have on the Witch in terms of all of your Condensed spells. Because as you can see, it takes a while for the entire spell to hit. It's something that you have to linger on for a while. But let's move on to Fire, which is the next strongest in the series. Now, Fire actually has the potential to be the absolute strongest, but the meteors are randomly generated, so it's kind of unpredictable as to whether only one is going to hit or whether many are going to hit. It's usually best to use this on big targets, especially if they're thunder elements, so they take extra damage from the meteors. But you can also use this for Akashic versus Cthulhu, which I will demonstrate later. Now, the level 2 meteors actually do more damage per hit than the level 3 meteors, as you see here. But the level 3 meteor covers more area, and it actually fires more meteors. Usually, I find myself using the level 2 because I typically don't use the Fire contract. And it just ends up working really well when you kind of learn how to aim the funky RNG spell. But generally speaking, if you're fighting something big that's weak to fire, you're going to want to be using the Fire contract and the level 3s just to take advantage of your surge better. Next, let's go over Ice, which is actually the second strongest in terms of DPS. Level 2 Ice does about as much as 2.5 meteors. And level 3 is just shy of 3 meteors. Generally speaking though, you're going to want to stick to level 2 because that second level up actually costs you quite a bit of time that you could just be investing into more DPS via spamming level 2s over and over again. Level 3 is a bit larger than the level 2 though. Let me see if I can demonstrate that there. So level 3 just barely touches the right dummy there. Level 2 does not. So generally, you're only going to want to use level 3 Meteor if you want that extra little bit of range, or if the boss is in a position where he's invincible, or you just can't touch it for whatever reason. And finally, I'm going to be going over the Thunder. Now, Condensed Thunder is the strongest spell that the Witch has access to. It's really, really strong up close, and it actually has quite a bit of range from a distance. Even though it works kind of like a shotgun, so you can actually get a lot of collateral damage on this one. It's kind of the same deal as Condensed Wind in the sense that the level 3 will give you more hits at the cost of a little bit of power, but it'll all kind of even itself out in the long run, where level 3 is usually unconditionally better, because it gives you more coverage and more damage close up. Now, the reason why this is the highest DPS move that the Witch has access to is because not only does it give you the most damage, but it dumps all of your damage in at once instead of going one hit at a time the way that Wind does. That's absolutely powerful. It's so strong to the point where sometimes it's even worth using over Wind against enemies that are weak against Wind, just because it tends to do more damage overall. and it doesn't give your enemies a chance to escape unless they're high up, in which this spell is not very good. This spell's lack of vertical range is really its only weakness. And now let's finish off with the homing spells. Homing spells, for the most part, are actually really weak, but they all have really good utility if applied in the right way. Homing Wind, for example. It can target multiple enemies from a really long range too. Generally, Homing Wind, as you can see, it actually hit the dummy on the right side. Homing Wind will be able to hit things outside of your field of vision, so you can kill enemies with it before they even spot you. Level 3 is unconditionally better than level 2. As you can see, the tornado is bigger and it does more damage. There's actually one really good utility that you can have with this move as well. When enemies bunch up together, if you use Homing Wind, you can get up to 3 tornadoes that target the group, and it'll do a lot of damage. It's actually really useful as a tactic against the specific boss, which you guys will see later. The next one that I'm going to go over is Homing Fire. Just like Homing Wind, level 3 is unconditionally better because it gives you more hits. So it actually has a higher damage output. But the reason why level 3 is even more important than level 2 when it comes to the Homing Fire is because this has the most number of hits of any fire move in the game, which gives you a high chance to burn. Burn is really good if you're using the Akashic Records, or if you want to support your teammates who are maining physical damage. The next one that I'm going to go over is Homing Ice. Homing Ice is possibly the worst spell in the game, because it gets stuck on platforms just like the Condensed Ice. It's not very strong, and it has a lot of travel time, to the point where really slow enemies that are just moving sideways casually will avoid this attack, since it doesn't home after it gets fired. But the two good things about this move are that it builds up a lot of DP, and it's actually the very best feeder move. I will explain what those are later. And finally, we have Homing Thunder. I think this move is a little bit underrated. The level 2 gives you more projectiles, and the level 3 makes it stronger. But by all means, you only really need the level 2 for it to do its job. It's also pretty decent as a feeder, same as Homing Fire and Homing Ice. But the best utility that this move has is that it can hit both sides of you, and unlike Condensed Wind, it actually has quite a long range to it. As you can see, it even targets that far behind you. And it's also really good for crowd control, because each individual orb tends to home in on one target only, and most non-boss enemies are susceptible to paralysis. That move can be really good, but it's generally not used a whole lot because it's really weak compared to every other move in this game. But that basically covers it for the techniques. Did I just call my spells techniques in a non-PSO game? Anyway, I'm not going to edit that out. That's going to stay in. Let me go ahead and change my contract over to Thunder, and I will show you guys what a feeder spell is. Essentially what a feeder spell is when you cast the spell right before going into your Dragon Surge, and that spell will offset the cost of DP when you're in the animation of the surge and you can't move. You can do this with Homing Fire, Homing Thunder, and Homing Ice. Homing Wind cannot be used for this, but it has other utilities that I will show you later on in the boss portion. But Homing Ice is the easiest one to work with, so let's go with this one. Now this requires a lot of speed and precision. It is very hard to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Normally you're only able to do 6 casts of the same element if you have a matching contract, but with the feeder spell you can actually squeeze out 7 if you're fast and precise enough. Now again, you can do this with Homing Fire and Homing Thunder as well, but I'm just using Homing Ice for this one because it's the easiest to work with, since it's the longest lingering of the 3. But that's more advanced stuff. It's not really something that you need, just something fun and kind of challenging that you may want to work towards. But now that all that's out of the way, let's focus on the bosses. I'm going to split them up into 3 categories. The bosses that you want to fight normally, the bosses that you want to fight with the physical build, and the bosses that you want to face tank in some situations in order to make the run progress faster. So without further ado, let's flip over to that. Alright, the first boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Ogre Prince, and this is the only one that I'm going to show you outside of the training room because you can actually exploit his specific battlefield. You're going to want to be using the ice contract on this one because condensed ice is going to be your weapon of choice, and it'll just let you get more out of your surges and whatnot. But you want to start the fight out by jumping over him and then making a platform to avoid the wave attack. You can refresh your platform while you're on it as well. And that's going to be the source of this exploit. He should break the floor after he's done with this attack. Now, as long as you keep refreshing your platform, you can basically stay up here for the duration of the entire fight. And he will never be able to touch you. Now, the one downside to being up here on your platform is that people online will go for the smash ball the moment it appears, and your platform timer does not pause as the smash ball animation is happening, so once it's over, you will fall and you will have to fight. Now, before we move on to the next one, I'm just going to point out real quick that I'm not going to be showing you guys the Ice Equus, because he doesn't appear in any really worthwhile quests, and the quest that he appears in isn't really good for anything. So we're just going to skip him and go straight into the Mandrake, which should be the second boss that you unlock. This one is really simple. Just stay on the platform, and he cannot touch you, no matter what he does. Oh, he's calling his homie for backup. Anyway, even when he comes up and his true form is revealed, he still can't hit you with anything just as long as you stay on this platform. Nice and easy boss. That's all you need to know for every single difficulty that you ever encounter him in. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is Soo Meheeco. He's one of the bosses that kind of harasses new players, but at the same time he's also necessary in order to complete the story. The main thing that people have a problem with is his jump. You just have to move to the side a little bit and give him a little short hop in order to dodge it. Make sure you don't get hit by the poison projectiles, and the further to the side you go, the easier it is to dodge. Now, this charge, you just want to wait a sec, then jump over him. It's the same on every difficulty. And rinse and repeat. Honestly, I thought he was going to get me there. Easy boss. Now, on the higher difficulties, when you want to Dragon Surge him, you want to be using the Thunder Contract, because this is a little bit stronger than this. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is Bassett Jr. Now, he is weak against fire, but most of the time you're going to want to fight him with the Thunder Contract, because in both of the quests that he appears in, the main bosses of those quests are weaker to Thunder than anything else. But you are still going to want to use fire magic against him, because he is a pretty big target, and he is weak to fire, which is going to make your normally unreliable fire magic very, very strong against him. Poison is super easy to dodge on him. But you're just going to want to jump over that attack, nice and easy. Wind, a little bit harder to dodge, but no big deal as long as you get a little practice. Alright, now that we've enraged him, he's going to start using all of his elements at the same time. Thankfully for me, he only has 3 elements in his baby form. So the next order is wind, poison, then ice. I should actually be able to kill him right after this wind. But if the smash ball ever shows up and he still has a lot of HP left over, and that's why fire magic is unreliable. But you do want to get the smash ball if he has a lot of HP left over, because he's just going to keep spamming his spells, and it's not going to give you a whole lot of time to charge your own spells. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Wind Equus, You want to be a Thunder Contract versus him because he's weak against it. But start the fight off with a platform just to make dodging that little bit easier. That is something that very rarely happens. Normally he will kick into the big tornado. Very rarely does he double kick or just turn around and charge at you. When he does the big tornado, back away from him. Now, if you want to surge him, it's best to do it after he charges. That is the biggest window you're going to get, so I'm going to start charging it up right now. Nice and easy. He doesn't have any huge openings like other bosses, but it's not too hard to get a full surge off on him, especially if somebody else in the party has aggro. You can just jump over him and be completely safe. To Nitrous, on the other hand, is very easy, and he does give you a lot of time to burst him, as I'm about to show you guys. But let me get the regen up real quick. You're going to want to fight to Nitrous with a fire contract though, because each one of those shields that he has is actually its own target, and it gives you a load of DP when you unleash your fire into him. So make a platform right here. And because he has very, very little HP, he should die very quickly. The next boss I'm going to show you guys is the Asura Goblin. Now this one, he's a little bit annoying, but he's very easy at the same time. That's essentially why he's annoying. Because in the higher difficulties... Oh, no, get those things out of here. Because he attacks really, really quickly in the higher difficulties. But generally, you want to always kill the minions. That should be your #1 goal. And you're going to be able to get a little bit of burst damage out of him once he does that. That's no big deal. That move doesn't do a whole lot of damage if you do get hit by it, and it's legitimately the only one that's kind of hard to dodge. This one's relatively easy. Now I'm going to surge up. The hardest thing about this boss is actually getting your attacks ready when he's shooting the fireballs at you. But if you surge before he appears, as you saw right there, you can just attack once and keep moving and attack once and keep moving. You're also going to want to use an ice contract against him because condensed ice is the weapon of choice against him, much like the Ogre Prince. The next boss I'm going to show you guys is the Bandit, vanilla version. This one's relatively easy. You just want to wait outside of his running range. Though his clones can be a little annoying. Nice and easy. Now, if I had more DP, I would have surged right there since he used the bomb. But generally, as long as you keep out of the range that he can run in, because he does stop at fixed distances, he should be really, really easy to avoid in general throughout the entirety of the fight. Now, he just threw his knives up in the air, so I'm going to juke the clones real fast. Hit the bomb. Ah. Nice and easy Z pattern. But actually, while I have him here, let's say he's looking through his pockets over here. You generally want to stand about right here, because he won't run any further than right about here. And this little extra distance will give you time to react in case he actually attacks you, instead of stopping to check his pockets again. The next boss that I'm going to teach you guys is Bassett Senior. He has full use of his double saber, and he has more elements. You always want to use a bone versus him, because it sucks to be paralyzed if he does end up hitting you with the thunder. For this attack, you always want to jump under him and then go... Or, you want to jump over him and then run under him, because every now and then he'll do that into the saber, which is undodgeable if you're behind him when he does it. Whoops. Now when he does this move, he has two variations of it, just like the other one. That is the easy one, where he just goes over to you and then you just jump over him. Okay, so the position is Thunder first. That's all I need to know. Okay, that was a quickie. This is not good, though, because he's actually going to use Thunder after the poison, which is very annoying to deal with since poison takes up most of the stage. Let's bait it out. Nice. I'm safe. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. And fire does not faze me. There we go. I'm just gonna take that one. Now, when the Smash Ball is available, you always want to go for it. Because just like Bassett Jr., he's just gonna keep spamming his magic over and over again. You're not gonna have a whole lot of time to actually use your magic as a result or build it up. So you always want to have your offensive option available to you at this point. And if I remember right, Ice then Thunder? Nice and easy boss fight. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Werewolf. Now, Lycanthrope is one of those bosses that tends to really get the newer players. But once you learn his pattern, it's like one of those revelations where it becomes super easy. Basically, he does a hop, then something random, then screen slash, then he does a lunge, a hop, something random, and then he throws rocks at you. And that's the entire pattern of this boss fight. There we go. Now, even though he's a poison enemy, I'm using Thunder against him specifically because he moves around a lot and sometimes the entire tornado doesn't hit him. Whereas with Thunder, you know, it all comes out at once. You get all of your damage up front. Now, once he does this big desperation move, this is your chance to Dragon Surge right here. Because when he comes out, he goes through a very long howling animation, and you can just unload the full surge into him right then and there. Very tough boss to learn when you're new to the game, but very easy once you actually know what he's trying to do. The next boss that I'm going to show you is Atrum. He is the final boss of the main story. Also one of the easier ones when it comes to dodging. Now, Amika's going to start off fighting and she is weak to Thunder. Then Atrum is going to come out to play and he's weak against Ice. And I missed. But he'll generally just teleport once, then start doing his own attack. Really easy to burst on him as he's doing his attack though, because all you have to do is stand in a very specific place. Now he's going to do one of 3 random attacks, and he has chosen death. I wish it was that easy. Ooh, almost juked me. Now, like the Werewolf, I prefer to use Thunder against him, even though he's weak to Wind, because he's invincible for most of the duration. And with Thunder, you just get all your damage up front. But since he has chosen death once more... The next one that I'm going to show you guys is Rivolis version 2. He's the final boss of the DLC, and he's actually really hard. Mostly because whatever damage type you use against him, he becomes ultra resistant to the point where you do very little damage versus him. Now, when he does his Thunder attack as he's doing now, this is actually a good opportunity to go in and burst him, just by using the platform to dodge the initial attack. Oh, Ice. Whenever he swaps to Ice, you just want to jump up onto the platform and drop down. He should miss you every single time. The hitbox is not as big as the animation would lead you to believe. When he swaps over to Poison the way he's doing now, you don't really want to focus on hitting him. You want to focus on cleaning up the poison. Because not cleaning up the poison will actually make dodging a nightmare versus him later on. Fire is very difficult to dodge. But basically, once you hear him do that little scream, you just kind of want to jump up and drop down and go right past him. Alternative way of dodging ice, by the way. If you ever miss the first cue. And that's why you always use a bone before fighting him. Now let me see if I can get some of that magic resistance off of him. But by using other damage types, you will actually get rid of his resistance to whatever damage type you used previously. Just have to play a little bit of a dancing game with him when he does that. The wind is actually one of the harder ones to dodge as well. You just kind of want to wait for him to lift his hand before jumping over. Nice and easy. Not really easy. That is actually extremely difficult to do. I'm actually almost tempted to say that it's best to use a wind contract versus Rivoli, to be honest. Oh, that's gonna be bad. It's okay. You can also go under him. Oh, he's being really annoying now. He's just spamming the poison. Ugh, I failed to clean up the poison. So this is going to be a lot harder to dodge. Alright, he's using the thunder, so now's a good chance to get rid of that resistance that he has built up. Perfect, stay right there. Ah, I should have kept going, but whatever. Now, with Rivalis especially, you always want to get the Smash Ball, no matter what. Because if you don't have a Bizarre Bone, or if your bones all run out, that's a good way of avoiding getting statused. And it'll give you permanent access to your Surge and your Big Familiar, which you can use to swap damage off of him. Oh, and this especially, this is actually the main reason why you get the Smash Ball. Because now cleaning up the poison is a cinch. Cleaning up the poison is actually the most underrated thing in this fight. But he is very hard, he takes a long time, he's kind of hard to dodge. But once you get it down, he's not that bad. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Tempest Steed and the Trampling Lance. Both of these enemies share an identical moveset, just one of them is found as a named monster and the other one is found in Cavern of Torment 65. They both have the same exact moveset though, so it should be more or less the same fight. It's just that the Trampling Lance is much stronger. But basically when you start off, you're going to want to dodge him same way that you dodge the horse. When you see him getting ready to kick, jump immediately or else you won't be able to dodge the second wave. Now he should be doing his... Oh! Rare pattern again, just like the wind, Equus. Fancy that. But when he does the big tornado, you want to run back. And then run back one more time because he casts two of them. Instead of just the one. When you jump over him, you want to make sure you jump over him around the center stage. 1, 2... Now let's do 1. It doesn't really matter how far away you are from him when he does that, just as long as you're not right up in his face. For the second tornado. Nope. Messed that up. Unlike the Wind Equus, he will double kick very often. You do surge him the exact same way though, so let's get that ready right now. Oh, I panicked there and I messed it up. But it's whatevers. This guy is really, really hard to dodge. That's more or less the gist of it. Now, this is actually one enemy where you're going to want to use a physical build. But the Tempest Steed, specifically the one that you fight in Cavern of Torment, can be overcome with magic, unlike the Trampling Lance. So I figured I'd throw him in with the standard build bosses. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Hornbreaker. And this one, just like the Tempest Steed, has a named monster variant called the Demon's Puppet, which is much harder, but they do share the same exact moveset. So you want to start off with the platform and jump over him, because you do not want to get hit by him under any circumstances. Same deal, jump over him. You always want to maintain more or less this distance from him, because you don't want to fall into that shockwave. And you don't want to get hit by the rising rocks. But he's basically the same exact pattern as the Ogre Prince if you decided not to do the platform exploit versus him. You do, however, want to stay far, far away from him, because if he does the flamethrower, it is undodgeable if you're like right in his face without a platform. It travels much, much further than the Ogre Prince's flamethrower. He is a little bit more active when it comes to attacks, though. And he chose the wrong move at the wrong time, and now he's dead. He does seem to take less damage from magic overall, though. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Immortal See Lord and his Executioner. Very difficult boss, only found on Cavern of Torment floor 105. Now, the basic idea behind this boss is that you don't really fight him all that much. You just have to confuse the tentacles and wait for the tentacles to take him out. But he does a lot of damage, and he has a lot of HP, and he is very resistant to physical damage especially. But let's go over here and confuse the tentacle. Now he should curl up and summon his little bug buddies. Now, generally the bugs are just going to crash into him, and you're just going to dodge all of this with the platform. You could go over to the middle platform and just jump over the wind the same way you'd normally do against Cthulhu. Wait, where the hell is he going? Over here. No, you're going to want to wait a little bit over here just so that he drifts this way, and just to make sure that he gets hit. Because every now and then what he'll do is that he'll just keep walking this way, go under the tentacle, and not get hit by the poison. Now let's wait for him to make his way over here. Nice. As you can see there, that did a massive chunk to his HP. Perfect, that's what I was waiting for. So now he summons the bugs, and the poison takes him out. Very tough boss if you're fighting him head on. Very easy if you just wait for the tentacles to kill him. And that actually wraps it up for all of the bosses that you fight normally. Now I'm going to swap over to the Akashic Records, and I'm going to show you guys all of the bosses that you fight with the physical build. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is Cthulhu and the Crab, but I'm going to start with the Crab because you normally take on Cthulhu with full DP. And that's actually very paramount to the strategy of fighting Cthulhu in general. But the Crab is actually super fucking easy. When he lifts his claw, just move back. Now, I can only do this here because the platform is available, but when you're fighting him normally, it doesn't even really matter if you get hit by that. It does very little damage. And unfortunately, I'm not going to get my full DP for Cthulhu. I swear, the platforms in this game. But anywho, that's the Crab taken care of. The next boss that I'm going to show you guys is Cthulhu. Now, Cthulhu takes colossal damage from physical attacks, so you're just going to want to burst him down before he gets up in your face. That's essentially the entire strategy here. Now, he will hit you, and that's fine if he does. This is one of the face tanker bosses, as well as physical damage. You should be able to kill all the tentacles almost instantly, even on Sea of Tumult level 110, for example. And that's the entire boss in a nutshell. He takes so much damage from this build, it's not even funny. Alright, the next couple bosses that I'm going to show you are the Twin Dragons, just because you fight both of them in the same quest. These are one of the bosses that I fully recommend Glass Cannon build on. Now, with some luck, we'll be able to burn him. And we do not, unfortunately. No. Basically, the strategy against these things is to burn them, and then once they go into their secondary move, you start using the Dragon Surge to finish them off. It doesn't matter. It does not matter that I got hit. But basically, once they are burned, they take massive, massive damage, just like Cthulhu. I actually think the left one might be a little harder to burn than the right one. That's all confirmation bias. But I swear, I have a much easier time burning the right one. Very predictable pattern, very easy to dodge. But after he does the second one, you want to go up on a platform. Oh, we got the burn. He's dead. But like you saw, the other one sends the ice chunks at you. And normally, if you get the burn by then, you just want to surge and use your condensed ice because that'll destroy the little ice chunks. Same thing with this one. After he does his second lunge, go up on the platform so he doesn't suck you up. And you could just go ham on him with the Dragon Surge. Alright, but before I get off of my physical set, I'm going to show you guys the Celestial's Goliath, which is also kind of a face tank boss. The Goliath is something that you'll fight on Cavern of Torment floor 85, and for Cavern of Torment 81 specifically, the physical build is a little bit better than the magic build, and it'll be better than the magic build you guys have available to you at that point when you start farming this on average. So you want to use a bone because he can paralyze you and it's really annoying. Now once I get in there, I'm going to run all the way to the left and let him hit me once. This should actually break his AI into attacking the wall. Now normally you have full DP at this point and you can just unleash on him. I did not think this through before coming here. Now because I'm on the floor, it's very likely that he'll do the shockwave, but if you don't kill him, just like I didn't do because I didn't have burst. Just go to the other side, face tank again. Same result. Nice and easy. But generally, you hope that when he attacks the wall, he does the dragons, because the dragons take the most time out of all of his attacks. The next boss I'm going to show you guys is Jin Ryu. He's very similar to the Goliath, but you're mostly going to be fighting him with magic builds as opposed to physical ones. But it's more or less the same strategy. Make him face the wall, and he'll attack once in the wall's direction, and pray that it's the dragons. Three times in a row. Now, normally you'd create a gap and run towards him when he does this attack, but he's about to go to the wall. Now, the reason why I do Thunder against the Goliath and I do Fire against Jin Ryu is because when you use a physical build, elemental weaknesses don't come into play. But with Jin Ryu, because I'm using magic, I do want to get that bonus damage since he is a huge target. But outside of that, it's more or less the same strategy. Make him face the wall, then unload into him as much as you can, and repeat the process each time he dashes across. Alright, so the last two bosses that I'm going to show you guys are the Twin Dragon Coffin, aka Bassett Senior, and the Ancient Primal Lord, who I forgot to show off in the regular boss fight video, so I'm going to post him right at the end of the face tanks. But this one is a face tank. His attacks are really hard to dodge, but he has very little HP, so as long as you have some healing on you, he should go down before you do. But you don't want to face tank right away. You want to face tank when he starts to get into his elemental shenanigans. I mean, when he gets into the super spammy part of his elemental shenanigans, not now. Whoops. And that should be enough. Now, normally you would come up against this guy with a wind contract, because unlike the wolf, who is also weak to wind, but you use thunder anyway, he likes to stay up in the air for a really long time. But as you can see, compared to the other Bassett, even though he's a much higher level than the other ones that I showed off, he has very little HP. So as long as you have lots of healing items with you, if you just scrap with him, you'll usually come out on top, but you don't want to start trading until he starts spamming his elements. Alright, now the last boss that I'm going to show you guys is the Ancient Primal Lord. I didn't show him off earlier because I kind of forgot about him, but he's not a face tank boss. He is a regular boss that you fight with a magic build. Normally you fight him with the wind contract, so I'm going to use the wind contract strategy. Perfect. See, when the bugs crowd around him, you can actually get a triple homing wind against him, which does more damage than the usual condensed wind. And his shots are always X's, crosses, and then X's again. Look at that damage. Oh, I'm amazing. That was actually completely improvised. That is not the proper way to dodge him. Baby. Triple homing wind. It's so satisfying to get that off because there's actually a certain position in which that strategy doesn't work. But now that the bosses are out of the way, I'm going to go into the what you should never do as a witch. And then I'm going to give you guys a practical example of an online run with other people. Alright, now as far as what not to do as a witch, there's actually not a whole lot of things, because generally the witch can use a whole lot of playstyles and there's a lot of builds available to her, even in the endgame once you hit level 100. But the biggest thing that you should not do as the witch is actively heal your party members with the heal spell. Let me give you an example. I have my lovely assistant Empress over here. Now go get hit by that enemy. You see? I cannot cast fast enough on reaction to him getting hit to the point where my heal gets to him before his invincibility wears off. That means that on any given moment when somebody gets hit, they're pretty much going to die if you have to heal them with heal to save them. Now, instead of doing that, lovely assistant, get hit again. You see how much faster that is? Before his invincibility wears off in anything, I just open the menu, shortcut Miracle Powder. It recovers the entire party's HP by 80%, so it's faster and more effective than the witch doing this. Much faster, much more effective. It recovers 80% of his HP. And the very impressive thing is that you can actually carry 8 of these in any one quest, meaning that you can have 32 charges in a party of 4 that will almost fully heal the entire party. So you should never, and I repeat never, be doing this, ever. If you really want to play support witch, stick to regen, because it kind of lets people recover their death resist. Go ahead and get hit again. See, his HP is going up by some pretty big chunks, and I don't have to babysit him. Much more effective than using heal. That's the one thing you'd never want to do. You also never want to use your Dragon Surge or the Dragon Sphere to spam heals in a party, because that'll make the party or the quest take longer. Like, let me give you guys 2 situations. Situation number 1, you're healing because somebody in the party is dying way too much, and the quest will fail if you don't heal them. In that situation, it's best to play without that person because they're holding you back. Now, let's look at another situation where you as the witch are healing yourself constantly because, you know, you're getting hit a lot. You know, you're not playing very well. In that situation, you're kind of holding the party up, either because you're under-leveled or you're just not quite ready for the quest, and in which case you shouldn't be in that party in general because you're holding the people back. But point is that healing witch using the spells to heal is never a good idea. It should always be the items. Always. Alright, that's even better than the sub-tanks in Mega Man Zero. But that's basically the only do-nots as a witch. Now, I'm gonna get rid of this, and I'm gonna show you guys an actual practical run online with people, just to give you guys an idea of the endgame witch playstyle, at least the one that I've developed. Alright, now, the final thing that I'm gonna show in this guide is some general application of the witch tech. I'm going to be going through Cavern of Torment 91 with a couple of randoms, and I'm just going to show you guys more or less what the witch does in a party. Now, Cavern of Torment 91 is some pretty endgame shit. This is likely going to be one of your final grinds on your way to level 100, just because you need the gear in this place to make the level 99 accessories, which I am currently using, so I'm way faster than these people. And I'm going to cast regen on them just so that they don't get themselves killed. And of course, they both chose to go on the same side as me. Nice and easy. But yeah, the witch has a very good area of effect, so I can generally take out mobs faster than them. Now for this little bit, I'm just going to go into the Dragon Surge and I'm going to try to wipe everything. This should be no problem. I'm using some really end-gamey stuff, so I'm actually super powerful. And they're struggling over there, so let me give them a hand. So then I was like, let me juke all that. Whoops! For a second there I thought that I was still on the Thunder contract, so I actually overcharged my Condensed Wind. But it's fine. I can see that these guys are a little bit under-equipped though, so I'm going to be doing a lot of the work here. But Homing Wind is actually very, very good for this section. Just because you can kill everything from the middle platform there. And even if he knocks me over, he's just going to get himself killed at that point. There's always that little delay on the weapon swapping whenever you swap to a focus. I don't know why they did that in this update, but it's fine. So the plan for this room, at least as I'm imagining it, is that I'm going to take one of the sides. And I'm going to hope that the Empress realizes that I don't need her on this side. Mission failed. Go help your warrior, buddy. He needs you more than I do. It's okay. We have the bone. But generally, a little bit of face tanking isn't necessarily bad if you have a good focus with regen up. Now we're going to fight the Ancient Primal Lord, and we're going to be able to use the wind strategy at its fullest. Now, I'm going to wait for them to get the aggro on him, just so that I can do my double-triple homing wind. Never mind, not fast enough. He appeared in the bad spot in general, and the warrior actually killed one of the bugs. Nice CC dodge. Oh. Should have trusted the warrior. No, never mind. Should have not trusted the warrior. He just let me take it. There we go. That was nice stun that he did right there. And because the Empress's short sword is really good at building DP, I get a little bit of an extended surge there. Good. Now, the reason why I tanked it that time was because I had a feeling that the triple homing wind was enough to finish it off. So I'm going to cast regen one more time. This next floor should be cake, in theory. Alright, so I'm going to take the frogs in the middle. I'm going to take everything on the right side, and I'll just wait for them to finish their side. Now I wait for him to finish his side again. The witch is a very lonely character. But basically, as you can see, my role is definitely not much of a supporter the way that I play. I'm more of a crowd clearer. Now, the reason why I'm using Condensed Thunder in this section is because it just kills immediately rather than giving the ogres a chance to counterattack. Let me help him out again over there. There we go. Hey, I managed to kill them both. Condensed Thunder actually has hella long range. He's going for the left, so I'm going to go for the right. Nice. I'm going to swap over to Condense mid-surge. Nice and easy. Don't want to pick that one up. Yeah, I'll take the red pepper. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can just kill as many of these bats as possible. And I don't really care that they went on the left side. It just means that I have less things to kill. There we go. Alright, now he can take care of that. Now I'm going to use another Bizarre Bone, just because I don't want it to run out mid-coffin fight. And I'm going to prepare the regen. Now, I didn't show you much of the face tank strategy in the actual practice room, but I'm going to face tank the hell out of this one this time. And I know I just said that I'm going to face tank him, and I'm not face tanking him, but now. Now, you might be wondering why he's taking a lot longer to kill here than he is in the training room. And that's because HP for bosses actually scales based on the number of players that you have in a room. So he actually has way more HP than he did when I was fighting him solo. Whoops. There we go. Now, he was about to go into his second form, but it's okay. Most of the time he dies before that happens. Now, I'm going to let one of them open the chests, just because they are randoms, and I don't want them to be upset with me, just in case they're running luck. As you can see, I'm not really a supporter when it comes to active combat. I more so support whenever the combat has died down a little bit, and I actually get a chance to make my support matter. As you saw, my general game plan is to just go full offensive. As I demonstrated, you just can't heal fast enough to save people on reaction, especially if you're getting attacked and you have to dodge something. But that's more or less the long and short of this guide. It's just a very nice way of getting to understand how the witch works, and, you know, maybe you don't like my playstyle, you can definitely invent your own, but this guide is meant to be more so of a basic strategy guide for the game as a whole. You guys can definitely add on to it and remove from it if you'd like. It's just a good way for beginners to get into the character and understand what the character is all about. But that will do it for me, guys. It's been fun. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all later.